Alright, part two of the brake job on the little '07 Accent in a nice frozen tundra of New Jersey. This is the left side, driver's side rear. I can barely, as you can see, barely move it. So it's frozen. So this is the one we're going to start on. We're going to start on the problem child. I tell you, this half-inch nano sometimes doesn't have the balls to do anything. You gotta switch over. But what I think is that the clutch gun from Northern, not a sponsor, is a good gun. Got plenty of power. No big deal for this at all. For the money I spent for this one's actually patterned after, I think it's the same gun as the one that Harbor Freight used to have. A really strong earthquake that was made by Florida Pneumatic. I wish they would go back to Florida Pneumatic. As you can see, there's plenty of rust. That's how it is in the Northeast. Normally, I would just undo the bleeder and then push the cylinder back in. That way none of this old fluid go back into the ABS module. But for this one, since I'm replacing this anyway, because all of this is nothing but rust. Completely rusty crap. This is why it's seized. This is why in the Northeast, at least once a year, you should check your brakes. But free advice doesn't always work. Let's see if the little nano has enough balls to take out the caliper adapter. Gonna do that job. These are gonna go back. They're gonna go back. It's a blue Loctite and the correct torque. It's locked pretty good. Nice job. There you go. Oh. That's pretty locked up to me. I'd say that slowed down the car a little bit. Maybe screw up with your miles per gallon, huh? Alright, I'm going to take one of these and pinch off the hose, and then we can take it off. You can take these off with an air gun. You can't put them back with an air gun. You'll snap them, and you have to go get a new bolt. So I'll do that. And just feather this guy just a little bit as you go. There you go. gone. I'm going to use some new copper washers. Put the new one. This one here has to come off. I used this before. I've done this one before, so I have anti-seize on it already, so it should come off pretty easy. The rotor's pretty grunged up, pretty scored up, so it ain't worth reusing. You can hear all the garbage that's inside there, the rust, because as you see, the water shield, dust shield here is rotting away. This is Jersey, the Northeast. What happens? That's why when you take these here, see, this one comes out nice and easy because I did these brakes a while back ago, and I always put anti-seize on these bolts. Not, it wouldn't come out this easy. You'd have to either drill them out and just say the hell with it and just break them. Try not to. But when you first get them, that's what you should do, anti-seize them. There you go. 99% of the time it'll come out easy. This rubber plug right here is an access to get inside and adjust the parking brake. If the parking brake is hanging up, you can pull this plug, put two little spoons in there, and jiggle the adjuster and get it loose. But 90% of the time, you're good. It comes right off. As you can see, nobody ever wants to replace these either. That's another one. And the person that's doing this doesn't want it replaced either, so it's good. It goes on and on. It doesn't matter to me. I do what I'm told. But because I know this here, the disc will seize itself to this part right here, to the register. I put some anti-seize on there. The next time I have to do this, if I have to do this, as you can see, all this is rusting away. This all would have to be replaced, but it's up to the person. If they don't want it replaced, they don't have to. I just run a wire reel real quick around that, clean up some for the new rotor. And try not to get any anti-seize on the studs. The studs should always be dry. Don't put anything on them. Oil, anti-seize, nothing. Nothing goes on them. You don't want to take a chance of a wheel loosening at speed. This is why you do not put anything on them. You want them to be solid. And that'll take care of the rust. The rotor, of course, needs to be degreased because the rotor comes with coating on it to keep it from rusting in storage. So that has to be cleaned up. I like to use Super Clean. This particular time I'm going to use Super Clean. I spray them out, down, inside and out. Nice and good, nice liberal amount. Don't be afraid to use it. Then wipe it down really well. Get all those oils off. And it should be ready to go. Line up the hole. There's a hole in the rotor. There we go. Nice shiny rotor. Put a little bit, just a dab on that of anti-seize on there. Tighten up the bolt, screw, whatever you want to call it. It's got a Phillips head on it. Doesn't need to be super tight, just snug. Not going nowhere. And the rubber plug goes in here. You have to transfer over, because I don't know why they don't give you a new one. They should give you a new one every time they give you a new rotor, but they don't. Put that one in there, and that part is pretty much done. Okay, now you can install the calipers, or the caliper for this one. These guys were coated, so that was a good deal. The guy picked up the coated ones, and it's easy enough. This is the left side of the car, and they say left in the casting, and also the bleeder should always be on the top, never this way. If you see the bleeder this way, you got it wrong. The bleeder always have to be on the top, because air goes up, not down. And we're going to put some blue Loctite on the bolt. And I will torque these off camera. For now, I'll just put them on. They have to be set for the proper torque. Make sure you don't lose the washers that go with the bolts. A little blue Loctite. Make sure it spins nice and easy. Now putting the caliper together. This should be a hardware bag, and it'll have the crush washers, copper crush washers for that. Put new ones on every time. Checking this, make sure the old crush is off. See, that one's still on. That's what they look like. There's a hollow bolt. That's why you don't use an impact wrench on this. You hit it with the impact too hard, you will break this. This bolt is hollow. It passes fluid through and in to the caliper. Make sure that all your hardware is installed, fully seated. Make sure you're going to use a good grease on them. Not to touch the rotor, just to give it enough that it'll coat the pads and keep the pads moving and from sticking onto the hardware here. Also, the pads themselves, make sure you put a little grease on them. This is the high temp Permatex version, ultra ceramic grease. I like using it. It's really good. And on the back of the pad a little bit. On the ears, try keep it away from the actual brake surface. And put them in nice and easy. You may need to tap them in with a hammer slightly, as they are new. There you go. And do the same for the other side. Now comes time to mount the caliper. Make sure you leave the plug in to the last moment. This way you minimize the amount of dirt that's going to go inside of it. And of course, they give you new bolts to attach to the adapter. Use them, put a little dab of blue Loctite on them as well, and tighten them to specifications, torque specifications that Hyundai wants. I like to put a little bit of grease on the piston itself, inside there. And as you saw, the other one was completely destroyed. Try to save this one. There are flats on here that fit into here. That's how it goes. And just a tiny little drop of blue. Okay, waiting to the last moment. As you can see, this little clipper here that holds on to the hose keeps it dry, so it's easy to get into. Now you can remove the plug that's inside here. It keeps the dirt out while in storage. Don't throw these away. They're always good for something. Okay, comes with a new bolt. One copper washer on one side, one copper washer on the other. Line it up. Make sure it threads in easy the way it's supposed to. Don't get it cross-threaded. Make sure that it lines up with the keeper, this little line keeper, while you're tightening it. And then when you set the torque, I have it set at 18. Okay, so the bolts for the caliper mounting, the bracket itself, they're 43 foot-pounds. The bolts that attach the caliper to that are 24 foot-pounds. And the bolt that holds the banjo to the line, this one right here, is 22 foot-pounds. And of course, check and make sure everything after we bleed and evacuate the system, because that's what we're going to do. Make sure there's no leaks, and good to go. Now all I got to do is do the other side. This wheel was more rusty. This is the front one. And you can see up in here, this wheel was a lot more rusty than the other wheel. It took a lot of pounding to get this wheel off. It was solidly rusted in place. Another place. Good thing the rotors are halfway decent. I'll be able to save them. It'd be better if I had it in reverse. There you go. There you go. Oh. Come over right here. Always move these out of the way. Do not hang them by the, you can see all the rust. The outer pad worn pretty bad. The inner pad not as much, but it's completely, totally uneven. They should both wear equally. This one's moving. That one's moving. Okay, that's good. At least that's still moving. But most of the rust is inside of here, inside the adapter. I'm going to have to take these and probably go to the sandblaster and blast these clean. You either do that or take a caliper file and file them up and clean them up really good. Sandblaster does a faster job, so I'll do that. Now all you do is take this guy, sandblast. Since I'm not replacing this caliper right here, I don't want this fluid to go back inside into the ABS module. So I'll crack open the bleeder and push in the piston, and as you can see there's fluid coming out. I'll push the fluid back out and into my dirty oil container. This way I don't contaminate the ABS valves and the module, because the module is pretty expensive. That's a good idea to do. And I can bleed the rest. When I do the whole bleed, I'll get it all out anyway. But I don't want to push any junk that's inside this caliper back inside. Now that you have the piston all the way in the caliper, tighten the bleed screw, and then you can release the caliper. After sandblasting the caliper adapter, paying particular attention to where the new hardware is going to go in. Make sure you've done a really good job in there. I did the whole thing, but I made sure that these were absolutely clean. And we'll do the same things I did in the rear. With the blue Loctite on the bolts. And I will torque them to specifications. These are nice, and make sure these are always nice and they go in and out real nice and smooth. If they don't, pop them out, redo them, or even get a new caliper adapter. Sometimes they're so seized, there's no way but to replace. And then I'll put the caliper on, making sure that all the hardware is on. I greased all the hardware. Good quality like this Permatex Extreme brakes lubricant, really good stuff. Got new hardware up on top, and I'm putting new hardware on the bottom of it. Make sure it goes in all the way firmly. Pads, make sure your pads are in. You don't need a lot. You don't want to get it on the rotor. Just want to get it on the surface of the adapter and the surface of the hardware. And of course on the pad itself. These little ways are the ones that get stuck in there and make it difficult for it to go and move back and forth. And there's one. Same thing with the other side. The other side goes up against the piston, so you want to put a good amount of grease right here where the piston goes up against. This stuff is supposed to be waterproof and not easily washed off with any kind of water or grit. Protect the pad, keep the pad from moving side to side. evenly, so it's supposed to move. There we go. Number 2. Now all I need to do is put some on the piston itself. So, just to make sure that it has some lubrication. And then there are flat spots on the caliper bolt, so you have to line them up. And there you go. Put these guys back in. And the front ones, I put a little bit of anti-seize on them because they're the ones that get the most spray. Tighten everything up to spec, and she's good to go. Do the same thing with the other side. Okay, caliper adapters, 73 foot-pounds. That's good. One's for the caliper, 22 foot-pounds. And that's it for that. Cool. Prior to removing the cap off the master cylinder, clean around it with a nice blue rag, shop towel. Don't want to get no crap in there. Then we're going to suck out the old fluid that's in there with a vacuum canister, vacuum bleeder from Harbor Freight. You can get a cheap one. They're like $24. They work for sucking out all the fluids out of things like power steering and other small stuff. Then we just add the correct fluid to the brake bleeder. I'm going to completely get all the fluid out, so I'm flushing the whole system. So I'm going to need quite a good amount, at least a quart of fluid. I have these that are not even a month old, so I use them up. Master cylinder and pressure bleed the whole thing. I'll get all the old fluid out. No maxing out at 20 psi. Don't go above 20 psi. Usually 10 or 15 psi is perfect, and it's just fine. As you can see, the line is filling up with fluid. I use this valve right here to bleed it, so there's a minimal amount of air. I need an old can to put the fluid back in. This will make it so a very low amount of air is going to go inside of it. Just open the valve. And there you go. Close the valve, unhook it, and there you go. Now we can go bleed the master cylinder and the rest of the system. We'll hook up the adapter. Proper one on this one. Seems to be the 1107 for this kit. Is a Mighty Vac. Or no, not Mighty Vac. Motive Products. Sorry about that. Motive Products. That's what it is. Connect the hose. As you can see, there it goes. Pressurize to about 20, no more than 20. I've got about 15 psi. So that's not too bad. 15 psi, and then I'll go to the brake, to the wheels, to the calipers, and one by one, starting with the furthest one. Okay, it's pressurized to 15 psi. You open the caliper bleeder, and there you see the flow. Just let it flow out till you see no bubbles, and it's nice and clear, the fluid. Do it on all 4 wheels, and that would be it. Next thing is to put the wheels back on, torque them to the proper spec. And this vehicle, it's 85 foot-pounds, and make sure the brake is got brakes before you move the car. Make sure you step on the pedal, and once you do that, go test it out. As you can see, it's nice clear fluid. The rest of the wheel's done exactly the same way. Thanks for watching.